Hi, welcome to Filmaginations, a podcast about your favorite TV series and films. Every few weeks, I will cover a different one and take a deep dive into what happens on the screen and what my favorite moments are. Welcome back. I hope you listened to part 1 and you're ready for the second part, which obviously covers season number 2. This season gets more intense, partially because Hannah gets involved in something illegal and kills someone in the process. We also have a lot of mixed feelings, but there is no more hatred coming from Karppi. But don't worry, we will get that in season 3. But starting from the beginning, Karppi gets a case and Nurbi comes back, with a cup of coffee naturally. Did you notice how smitten Sophia was when she saw him? That was a beautiful reunion. She introduces him to the matter at hand. They found a frozen body in a frozen storage unit. The guy, Jan Lanest, is Estonian. And early on we also learned that there's a tunnel project involved. They are building a railway tunnel under the sea between Finland and Estonia. Due to those two countries being involved in the investigation, we will have scenes that happen on both grounds. And also there's a comeback of characters speaking English. I'm very happy with that. Speaking of Estonia, very soon a body turns up there, so now they have two. I think the case we got in this season was also interesting. I don't think it was better or worse than the previous one. Let me know what you think. At the precinct, we see Tapia's daughter arriving. She came to visit him in the office. She is met by Karl Sten, a police officer high in the hierarchy. I had a feeling something was off about him when he saw Kerttu, but they steered the story in a different way and I forgot about that until they revealed who was responsible for the murders. I like it when we meet the killer at the beginning of the story, but not knowing about it until the end. And when the case gets solved, we get a flashback to see Kerttu's reaction to Kalle's ring, which was hidden from a camera when we see them together for the first time. Koskimäki meets his daughter and soon after Sophia enters the room. I wish she let him tell her what he wanted before interrupting and jumping with her story to tell. Of course, no one knew this would be his last chance to share that information, as he would be dead very soon. Nurmi and Karppi are back together, like nothing happens, yet she starts looking at him fondly when they're in the car. Like she's glad they get to do that again, that he's back. Nurmi also goes back to asking random questions to Karppi. I missed that, and them laughing and making jokes, and again, I cannot believe we get to see Sophia smiling so purely at Sakari. Hannah's character, as already briefly mentioned, starts this season strong by stealing some drugs that belonged to a guy she knew, Jan, who turns out to be one of the victims. She hides the stash and meets a guy, Jere, under the bridge. It all happens fast. He asks out, and then we see them coexisting in his apartment. I feel like Hannah's plot came a bit out of nowhere. We don't even know where she was living before meeting Jere. So she has no job, no money, and when she sees an opportunity to sell drugs, she takes it. I guess in a way it does make sense, but to be honest, I didn't like her character's story. Not in this season and not in the next one. Speaking of Karppi's kids, we see some more problems with Emil. He starts getting into trouble at school. And following the pattern from season 1, as the case continues, Karppi has less and less time for him. Coming back to the case, the victims were killed in a different way, but there was a connection between them. They were both working on a project for the same company, Kartamo Nordic. Nurmi also finds out that their boss is somehow involved. They need to talk to him, so they try to pick him up from a party he went to, but when they get there, he is already gone. He went home, and unfortunately this is a mistake that got him killed. There was a reason why Sten sent him to the party. He wanted to get rid of his daughter. Tapio was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. However, this is a conclusion that detectives will come to later. For now, the assumption is that the perpetrator was there to kill him, not her. I wish Nurmi and Karppi found him a bit earlier and were able to save him, but this would have meant solving the case too early. I realized they had to kill him for the sake of the plot, but it was still very unexpected and deeply sad. I liked him and his relationship with Karppi. With Koskimäki gone, Kolju takes over the departments. Sofia and Sakari find a meaning behind a message Koskimäki left on the floor before he died. There was a kid named Yimi, whose death certificate he signed. However, at the end of the season, we learned that the letters he wrote stood for a license plate. A doctor that also signed the death certificate for Yimi gets kidnapped in a van. Everybody is looking for it, and Karppi is the one to accidentally find it. She immediately follows it, borrowing a car from a random citizen. She gets herself in a dangerous situation as she tries to catch the guy. I have mixed feelings for characters that always know better than everybody else. Sofia always seems to solve things no one else sees, or often comes closer than anybody else to the murderers. It seems a bit excessive, but that's just how the writers wanted Karppi to be portrayed. We find out more about Hannah's life, more specifically what she told Sofia her life looks like. She has a job and lives with a couple of friends. I'm glad Nurmi feels protective over Hannah, that he cares about her and tells her to call him if she needs anything. She quickly gets into trouble as a man approaches her and wants her to either give back the drugs she stole or pay back. At the same time, her boyfriend disappears, and when she goes to retrieve the drugs, they are not there. Consequently, Hannah is forced to pick up a new delivery of drugs to pay her debt. And with that, we'll leave her story for now. As the case evolves, they learn the next target is supposedly the mayor, Sara Tuliso. Fortunately, they're able to warn her and she makes it out alive. Sadly, her daughter, Ida, was kidnapped instead. Sarah is understandably distraught. Soon they find a van the suspect used to transport Ida, and it becomes clear the suspect is a woman. During a quick break to take a breath, Nurmi and Karppi get into a fight as he gives her unsolicited advice regarding her kids, and criticizes her parenting. I think he feels involved in their lives and cares about them, and that's why he even said anything. But Sofia becomes defensive and is not keen on his comments. She always thinks she knows best, but we can see people getting annoyed by her behavior. The new boss is not as accommodating towards her demands as the previous one. He is tired of her not being able to be a team player, and at least considering other people's ideas. She storms out of the office and investigates the case on her own, following ideas that pop into her head. She goes to talk to Yimi's dad. Turns out he was adopted, and his mom is Mari Rutta, the kidnapper. While Karppi investigates on her own, the team is trying to rescue Ida. Purjeppa gets injured during the mission, but thankfully he's going to be okay. No one else was hurt, and the girl was found not long later. However, the mayor is now in danger, as she was traded for her daughter. Police receive a video that suggests the kidnapper blew up a tunnel where she was held captive. After that, the assumption is that she's dead. Nurmi and Karppi are thinking the opposite, so they go to try and find her. In order to do that, they have to focus on Rutta and her motives. They get on a ship where it all started, and Karppi questions Nina Tam, Yimi's girlfriend. Turns out Yimi was not on the boat the day he supposedly died. So we have a body that was identified as him, but how did he drown? Well, he didn't. Very soon we find out that the boy the father identified as his son was not his son after all. The duo checks a place in a storage unit where Rutta had a nest, and they bump into her in the process. They chase after her, but the unit is huge, and Rutta successfully hides from them. She shoots at Karppi, but before she kills her, she finds out that her son is still alive. So she runs away, and Nurmi is able to get help for his partner. She is not badly injured. Rutta has a change of heart and sends them GPS coordinates for the mayor's location, and they rescue her just in time. We go back to Hannah for a moment to witness a very disturbing thing. She hears Sasha talking to someone on the phone and learns that he is not who he said he is. He is making fun of her, and we find out that the mafia is not involved after all. She stands up to him and confronts him about the lies. He threatens her with a gun, and she gets mad. stabs him way too many times. This was way beyond self-defense. She gets rid of the knife and the body, and she cleans the blood from the ship as best as she can. It seems like she got away with murder. Did you expect that to happen? I didn't. I was actually really surprised by that. She seems calm and collected, but she starts getting hysterical as soon as she gets home. I guess she felt the weight of what she just did, but we'll go back to her and her feelings a bit later. Our favorite detectives start listening to recordings Koskimaki left on his phone. Is someone killing drug dealers? A question yet to be answered. Karppi sleeps at work, so does Nurmi. When he goes home, he finds Laura with a kid in his apartment. Leo, his son, as she says. She just wanted to let Sakari know he exists. She has no interest in him being involved in his son's life. Nurmi is distraught after the visit, and right at the moment it all starts to sink in, Henna calls. She needs his help, but he dismisses her. He still feels the weight of what happened moments ago. Unfortunately, Henna overdoses after the call ends. Nurmi is usually very caring and protective, but she just called him at the wrong time, honestly. As Henna loses consciousness, Sophia randomly decides to go to her apartment. She wanted to ask about Jere, as she noticed Henna reported him missing. She is able to save her, and she calls Nurmi from the hospital. And that's when he realizes he should have gone out and helped her when he had a chance. He starts blaming himself. Meanwhile, Sophia gets emotional when she talks to Henna at the hospital. She wants to help her. When Nurmi has a chance, he tells Karppi about the phone call and how he ignored Henna when she needed him. He says it's all his fault, but Karppi denies that. I'm glad she doesn't blame him. He tells her about Leo and how he doesn't want to be anyone's father. He is overcome with emotions, and in the process he kisses Karppi, trying to find comfort in her, but she gently pushes him away. They separate as she goes home. Nurmi wants to know more about Henna's situation, so he starts investigating what she is up to, and finds out about the drugs and the ship. What also comes to light is that Kulju, the new boss, decided to keep an eye on her instead of arresting her. Nurmi gets angry and hits him while declaring out loud, Henna almost died. I just want to make a note that in this season we see a clear change in Nurmi's posture and behavior. For the most part, he is still the calm, reasonable one, but he also starts losing control and getting emotional. I like this side of him. The plot continues as Karppi gets home after the unsuccessful kiss and finds Ruta there, with a gun pointed at Karppi. They have an honest conversation about her son, and Nurmi hears everything through his phone. When things get bad, he calls for help and goes to the rescue himself. Her place is empty when the police get there. Turns out, Ruta kidnapped her. Nurmi is able to track their movements, but he loses them as they enter a tunnel. Karppi is really close to dying this time, but she survives once more. The investigation gets closed. They blame Ruta for every death that happened during Season 2. However, Karppi, the character that she is, doesn't believe Ruta is responsible for Koskimaki's and his daughter's death. And she shares that with Sten. She trusts him, but she really shouldn't have. He is the real killer. I just love the irony of that. Sten doesn't give her a green light to keep investigating, and Nurmi is also skeptical of her theories. He is not entirely sure about Karppi's ideas, and he doesn't exactly believe there is another killer. He was right to say to Karppi, maybe you don't know when to stop. Because it's hard to let go of a case, especially one that involves a friend's murder. Also, Karppi needs someone to question her judgment. Otherwise, she would make way more mistakes. Henna is on the screen once more. She confesses everything to Karppi, including the murder of Sasha. She finally had to say something. It was probably eating her up from the inside. And good that she did. She probably wouldn't have been able to live with herself if she didn't. I'm not surprised that Karppi decided to protect her and not report her, but I think she should have. Or at least talk it through with Nurmi because he is her conscience in a way. But being real, I don't blame him for taking her into custody, as much as I don't blame Karppi for getting mad that he did. But that ought to happen later, so let's focus on the case once more. Yetta's body is discovered. He was definitely murdered. Then we learn that Ruta was on her way to kill Tapia and his daughter, but someone got there first. And a big breakthrough, they discover she was the target, so she was killed first. They didn't think about that before because she was nothing more than their boss's daughter to them. Now they try to find out more about her personal life. Odds, their contact in Estonia, helps them with that. He has a file full of facts about Kertu. Karppi speculates that the killer knew her years before she was killed, and was worried she could recognize them, so they killed her. Odds, wanting to help them, sends them to Kertu's cottage in Estonia. The detectives go there to look for clues as to why she was killed. They find drawings, which very quickly become really important. And when someone shoots at Nurmi, the action begins. Suddenly, they have to run for their lives. It was thrilling to watch that. And the bug on Nurmi's face when they were hiding under the crate, I was just holding my breath hoping he wouldn't make a sound. Then we have them running inside the old prison and getting onto a helicopter. Again, thrilling. And I love the consistency of Karppi never being able to open a door, even in a helicopter. They fly up just in time to escape the shooter. Oh, and Nurmi doesn't really know how to fly a helicopter, so everything could still go wrong. As they discuss what just happened, they come to the conclusion that it was Odds who shot at them. Everything in the helicopter was going well, until Nurmi's head started throbbing and the helicopter's engine failed. They realized they had to land on the sea, so they desperately tried to call for help through the radio. I had goosebumps watching this. So they crash into the water and start sinking. Nurmi helps Karppi get out of the machine first, and due to that, he stays a bit behind. He is pushed to the back of the helicopter, and he starts spinning around with it as it sinks deeper and deeper. That was rough. Will he get out? Sophia finds a floating tent, and before getting onto it, she realizes that Nurmi is not near her. She spots him a few meters away, so he did make it after all. However, he's unconscious, so she has to slap him to wake him up. They successfully get into the tent, and as they settle in there, they hold on to each other, adrenaline wearing off. Nurmi is passing out once more. He probably has a concussion, and they're both soaked in cold water. I'm glad Karppi managed to keep him from closing his eyes for the third time. I love the worry in her voice and how she holds him close to her. They are still fighting for their lives. Thankfully, soon a boat arrives, and they are rescued. For a brief second, I was scared that the boat belonged to their assassin, and instead of being rescued, they were being haunted again. Turns out it was Yippe on the boat, and he comes back on the screen after his accident to save their asses. Odds stops being a suspect when Yippe confirms he was the one to inform they are missing. They are confused as they have no ideas as to who tried to kill them. The killer responsible for deaths of young dealers is still at large. They are brainstorming who could be responsible. Could it be a police officer? They go back to the drawings they found in a cottage and focus on the ring the suspect is wearing. Now they know the guy was a Finnish cop. They break into Kulju's boat. They discover his boat was definitely in Estonia, and he is most likely the man they are looking for. Later, Karppi goes to Kulju's house, and Nurmi stays at the precinct. That's when he finds out from a colleague about Henna's actions in full detail. Now he knows that Henna was not only involved in drugs, but also in murder. Nurmi leaves Henna's case for a moment, and he goes to Sten's place. Turns out that soon he will be the one in danger. Karppi is still at Kulju's place, and while exploring the basement, she finds a picture of Kulju and Sten. That's when it becomes clear who is the true killer. Meanwhile, poor Nurmi gets caught by Sten while snooping around his property, right after seeing Kulju's body. Once Nurmi is tied up, he and Stan have a chat. I like it when we have conversations between main characters and killers. We get to hear what happened word for word, the killer finally admitting to their actions and being openly themselves. Eventually, Stan tries to drown Nurmi, and of course, Karppi comes to the rescue. I was on edge trying to believe Nurmi is going to be okay. When Karppi finds Nurmi, they both have to fight for their life as Stan tries to kill them both. However, he gets shot and tries to run away, but Karppi finds him and they are able to arrest him. We jump to the morning after and learn that Karppi stayed the night in Nurmi's. She makes coffee after her son goes to school and tries to kiss Nurmi. I like that Sofia always bites and licks her lips when she wants to kiss Nurmi. It's very telling. But I think at this point he knew he had to arrest Hannah, and that's why he rejected her. He's about to break her heart in another way. He stays behind while she goes to work. Sounds like he just wants to sleep in. Before Hannah's arrest, I was confused as to why Nurmi was acting the way he was, but then it became clear as day. At the last moments of the season, we find out that Yumi is alive. He and his girlfriend were involved in drugs too. He is able to reconnect with his father, which is a very sweet moment. And we arrive at the closing scene with Henna, Nurmi and Karppi. No words were spoken, yet it was a very intense moment and a perfect one for the end of the season. Hannah gets arrested. If you want to hear my thoughts on season 3, please wait for the next episodes. See you soon.